a little bit younger. I'm thinking of Tyrese, 21 years old. What's the significance of players coming into the squad much younger, particularly from the UK, and how does that impact the competitiveness of the squad as you go into the Gold Cup and obviously World Cup qualifying later this year?
Yeah, we're not just focusing on now, but also looking to the future. And these players who come into the squad are there on credit. So
Again, I'm not buying any of that. I'm not buying it. I asked this question to my special guest on last night's live watch along. Big ups to Coach Lacosta, and I asked him, is players, is the when the gaffer says players come into the squad based on credit, is that subjective? Because in reality, that's far from the case. I don't think that's something that is factual. Right. So what we can see with this team, again, you're making you're trying your level best to squeeze certain players into the team. And I'm not trying to throw no one under the bus, but if you're not good enough to be part of the starting 11, then hold the bench. Hold the bench, because what you don't want to do is handicap your team. What you don't want to do is squeeze a player into the team that's going to leave you as a wounded dog. Who the hell is taking a wounded dog to war? We're literally preparing for war, because we cannot look at this World Cup qualification as, light work, nice and easy. No, dog's going to yam our supper if that's the case. And potentially, this might be the wake-up call that we needed. Losing against Guatemala in the way that we lost against Guatemala, you can call it a shock defeat. That's probably the perfect timing for us to get a kick up the backside to say, okay, you know what, you need to pull your socks up, because come the latter stages of this year, we might not be making it to the promised land. So backtracking on what the gaffer said there pertaining to players getting their call-ups based off credit, I don't really agree with that. I think instead what we're seeing from whoever is in charge of the call-ups, I'm not privy to certain information, so I don't know. Players, in my opinion, are being called up. Not everyone, but some players are being called up because of their service to the country, and they've been loyal servants over the years, and they've been committed, and they've helped to make a difference, etc., etc. And I also think you can align that with players being called up because of their being, big name players, so to speak. And I think that is potentially one of the reasons why they get a call up to the national team. And it does make me wonder as it relates to the gaffer Steve McClaren. I think I can pause that one there. I don't need to continue with it any further, because I don't want to take up much of your time, but I will continue to say the following, that it does make me wonder, because I always said that I will judge Steve McClaren as our head coach based on one thing. And since his appointments, I'm going to sound like a scratch CD, broken record. I've been waiting on him to be cutthroat. I've been waiting on him to be brutal, and he has yet to do that. We probably saw something of it in the Unity Cup and got carried away and say, finally, we've landed. But I think we're still on the tarmac in Kingston, Jamaica. We're nowhere near being landing. We're nowhere near landing. And what I'm talking about pertaining to sounding like a scratch CD is just me holding out and saying, when is he going to be as brutal as when he was the England gaffer? And he spoke about his time as the England gaffer. You can see it here in bold, McClaren decision shocked Beckham. Obviously, he's talking about the accent of David Beckham when Steve McClaren was the man in charge for his tenure as the England manager. And I'm, like I said, this is one of the things that I've been waiting on to see. Is he ever going to be as brutal? Is he ever going to give us what so many people are holding out for? Because as I said, if you can go ahead and get rid of David Beckham, arguably the biggest sports superstar in the world. Not many current sport icons have surpassed him or will ever surpass him. Like he's a legend of the game, not just in football, but just in sports. Like one of the biggest names there is. Men rate him, women rate him, everyone love him. Even newborn babies loved David Beckham. So again, here in bold, this is an article here from The Guardian. It's 18 years old. England door closes on Beckham. And I guess the main bit here, which I wanted to focus on with you guys, it says, McLaren's decision to drop the global megastar for his first ever England squad signaled his intention to distance himself from the epoch of, may his soul rest in peace, the late great Ericsson, and build a more uncompromising reputation than his predecessor. So I'm looking at articles like these and I'm thinking, what's going on here? What do we have here? You know what? Let me go ahead and close this. Don't want a copyright violation. I'm looking at little things like that and I'm thinking, so when is it going to be our time to shine? You know, who is McClaren? Because I'm feeling like this is not the McClaren that I probably was expecting in terms of coming in and ushering out those deadwood. We do have deadwood. It's not just a coaching issue, it's a player issue as well. We have to look at these players and say, like, you're just not good enough. You're just not levels. We've said this on other live stream. You are just not levels. It's sad to say, but the facts of the matter is you're just not levels. You're really not. You're allowing streaks and records to be broken rather than adding to the streaks and records. So I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, you know, who is Steve McClaren? Like, what the hell have we signed up for? Who did we hire? And you know, it's not just about him and his brutality as the England gaffer, but let's just remind ourselves that this is a man stood side by side by arguably the greatest ever manager ever, right? The greatest manager ever. Arguably that is, and that is the great Sir Alex Ferguson. I don't think you need an introduction to who Sir Alex Ferguson is, because if you know football, even if you're one of those babies they're born in your 2000s, whatever, you must still know who Sir Alex Ferguson is, and you know what he did as a manager. I've said this on my channel before. When he announced his retirement, I was delighted. I was just like, to hell with you, thank God, because he was a nightmare. Like, you know, he was the devil himself. Like, now Manchester United only have the red because they don't have that swagger that they once had when Sir Alex Ferguson was leading the charge, steadying the ship, so to speak. And there we have our current gaffer, Mr. Steve McClaren, and you can see it right here. Steve McClaren celebrates with Sir Alex Ferguson of the Manchester United's 1999 Champions League triumph. This is a man that has touched the Big Ace trophy, guys, being brutal with England, pertaining to ushering out some of those players there again, you know, not just David Beckham, but you know, Sol Campbell, as well as David James. And it says here, Steve McClaren has revealed he didn't sleep a wink for 6 months during Manchester United's treble winning season. So he's been around brutality, he's been around success. That's not something that he is unfamiliar to him. And even away from Manchester United, he tasted success on his own, right? But this is a product of Sir Alex Ferguson. So even with me being sat here and I'm scratching my head and I'm saying to myself, who did we actually sign? Like, who have we hired? Has he lost his touch, or have I gotten it wrong all along? So when I look back at those iconic moments there, you know, Beckham getting the axe and captain's armband being stripped and so on, could it be a case of this wasn't actually the brutality of Steve McClaren, it was the brutality of, let's say, those in the high echelon? Maybe it might not have been him. So maybe it's unfair for me to sit here and say that he has lost his touch, or question whether he has lost that brutality there, the ability to make cutthroat decisions, because perhaps it wasn't him all along. You know, is he a manager that delivers based on instructions, or has he just become a little bit more delicate? Is he just a little bit more delicate? Is he operating with a bit of TLC rather than that brutal cutthroat decision making, which I had high hopes for. I don't know what you guys make of that, but that's what I was waiting on him to be brutally cutthroat. But it hasn't happened, and I think it's safe to say that it's not going to happen, is it?